be able to come and worship with you to share the Lord's work in the African American church. I make sure that I came last week, so this will not be my first time at Westside worshiping. The last time I worshiped in the African American church was many years ago when I was in high school. I went to high school in Brooklyn, so I went to some of my schoolmates' church in Brooklyn. But that's many years ago. I'm not going to tell you how many years, but you probably have some idea. Today, the passage that we're looking at today is talking about Christian life. Talk about Christian life. Look at the book of Hebrews. The most famous chapter in book of Hebrews is chapter 11. It's the chapter on faith. Okay, faith brings us into the kingdom of Christ. Okay, after that we have to continue to walk toward that, toward that path and walk toward that goal. And that's how we see in chapter 12. Chapter 12 is about Christian life, and the very stand-out metaphor that is being used here by the author of Hebrews is that this is a race. This is a race. Okay, what kind of a race is this? Now, some of you are maybe athletic, at least at your younger age. What kind of race do you do? Do you run a short distance sprint? Do you run a long distance, maybe even a marathon or like a 5K or 10K race? Yeah. What kind of race is a Christian life? Is it a short distance sprint? No, it's a long distance marathon. Okay. So what's the biggest difference between a long distance marathon and a short distance sprint? One is time, and the other is what? It's endurance, right? So the important thing is not how quickly you get to the goal, get to the finish line. It's whether you even get there at all. So the important thing is to finish. I cannot deny that there's still a definite reward for being the first one to finish. But the important thing is to finish. Okay, so the goal for the long distance race is to finish the goal. This is a very good metaphor, and I will be using the verses here. But the metaphor I like to show you today is that several years ago I went to China. This is on a ministry trip. But I have the opportunity to go to Beijing. And when at Beijing, I went to the Great Wall of China. Now, has any of you been to the Great Wall? No? Okay. Well, let me ask another question. Has any of you never heard of the Great Wall of China? You don't have that. The Great Wall of China is built many years ago. It's about more than 2,000 years ago. Actually, it was start building 2,000 years ago, but then it took a long time because different sections being built. And it's the only artificial structure that are observable from the space. Satellite take pictures and they could actually identify. That's the only thing that you could see. Yeah. Okay. I used the the climbing of the wall, Great Wall of China, as a metaphor because they are different characteristics. They're slightly different from a long distance race that I find is very useful and give us additional insight. What are the things that we need to look at? We need to keep focus regarding our Christian life, looking at it as a race or looking at it as climbing the wall here. Is to know your goal. What is my goal here? Okay, this picture here. Can you see in this picture? Where do you think is my final goal? There's a little fort along the path. Okay, so you would think that as probably the top one right there, right? Okay. Well, in fact, the actual goal actually is behind that. There's a trail. You cannot see it from there. So after you get to the top one there, let's see. You get to there, you gotta go a little further. It's right around here, okay? So you cannot see that. And that's probably, if you use a different metaphor, you use a long distance race, it's also the same. Our Christian life, we do not really see our goal, okay? We do not really see a very clear, visible goal. Okay? Some people think of going to heaven as our final goal, okay? I'll point out to you that go to heaven is probably more like getting here, or maybe even getting here or getting here. Right? And in fact, even if you get to the top of this invisible summit, that is not your final goal, okay? Because in my trip here, I climb all the way up there, and then I get to the top and I don't stop there. I have to come back. I have to come back to finish the race. It's not just getting to your certain milestone, certain summit of your personal life or your ministry life. Okay, I'm going to graduate this June. Okay, that is one of my more important milestones. But that's not my goal. That's not my goal. And maybe I'll go out and serve in a church, and then someday I'll be ordained, and maybe I'll serve for a number of years, and someday I finally retire and honorably retire. Is that my goal? That's still not my goal. Okay. We have to finish the race, so we have to know the goal. Now, but if your goal is not so visible in your Christian life, then how do we identify that? How do we identify that? Go back to this, the race metaphor. In the case of a marathon, your final finish line is 26 miles away, okay? If you ran the New York Marathon, you start from Staten Island and you wind up in Manhattan, somewhere down in Central Park. There's no way you could possibly see your final goals. So how do you do that? How do we run that kind of a long distance race? What you do is make sure that you follow the right person. Okay, make sure that this guy doesn't took off and go somewhere else, or some quit along the way. Okay, some people might actually get to the finish line, but they got disqualified because they did not stay in the row. Okay, we'll go into that on the next topic. So who should we follow? We should follow Jesus. And in this verse, in verse 2 here, it says to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith. He's the author. He wrote it. He perfected. Actually, the two words here that in our English Bible, in the New International Bible, is a fancier translation, but a more simpler, much more easier to understand work from the original work is the starter and the finisher. So this is a race. Who started this race? Who mapped out the trail for us? Is Christ. He started it, and He finished it. And the word "finish" and the word "perfecter" actually is the same. It's the same Hebrew word that are being used. Along the way, He perfects our life, and that's what Christian life is all about. That's what sanctification is all about. It's perfecting our life. Ultimately, we live our life just as Christ did. And so, in our seminary, we have different years, and we have different spiritual formation classes. The last one is union with Christ. You completely together. Your life and Christ's life is completely tied together. So He's a starter. He's a finisher. But still, He started this whole path of salvation and sanctification many years ago. And even for me, who was baptized in my teenage year, that was That's my personal starting point. That's many years ago also. And hopefully I won't finish right away, so my finishing line is not immediately available. So even just identifying Jesus as the starter and the finisher in your Christian path is not sufficient. We have to be the follower, because Christ runs this path along with us. So we have to be the follower. He's the leader. He's the follower. And in the Bible, in the New Testament, there are many examples, including many teaching from Jesus that talk about how should be a follower of Christ. Okay? And we will not go into the detail. I think the most important thing we need to know is to keep the pace, to go with him. Okay? Don't let him lead you too far ahead. You know that he is going at the right direction. You know that if I just follow him, I have no problem. These days we all have GPS, so if you have to go to some place that you have never been before, and you know your friend is driving ahead of you, the old way we used to do that is to just follow him until there's a red light and he stop, and you just hope that your friend Tyrone will stop on the next block and wait for you to get on. Now today we have GPS, and I think GPS is the wonderful thing. It's God's positioning system. God is positioning you. Jesus Christ is directing you along the way. If you got off, he'll tell you get back. He has a lot of patience. I constantly got off. My GPS constantly tell me to get back. Finally, I turn off the sound, but it's still eventually it'll bring me back. Okay, so Jesus is our starter. Jesus is our finisher, but we also need to follow him step by step. In order to do that, we have to keep up with the pace. In a marathon marathon race, you have to go with the crowd, but then you have to be able to identify who to follow. New York Marathon has over 10,000 people. Well, I don't know how many now, 20,000 people running that race. You have to know who is the prospective leader, prospective winner. And we probably won't win the race, but I want to follow him. I want to keep my pace and keep my direction along with him. This way I know that I will finish my race. One of the reasons I chose Bethel Seminary of the East is because they have a great mentoring program. What is a mentor-mentoree relationship? It's a leader-follower relationship. Almost all the MDiv program in various seminaries has some form of mentorship. Okay. I like the Bethel's mentorship because they are different from most of the traditional mentorship. Okay. Most of them, toward the end of your program, you have a course that's called internship. Basically, you practice your service at your local church or at a missionary organization where you plan to serve after you graduate. Okay, and then you spend a number of hours there, and while there you within the church or the organization, there's a mentor who will guide you there. But that's toward the end. That's toward the end of that program. Okay, what if you never finish? What if you need a lot of encouragement along the way? Okay? That's why I like the Bethel Seminary mentorship program, because we don't put all the mentorship, all the guidance toward the end of this. We put it along the way. Instead of having just mentorship for that one big internship program at the end of your 4 years, 6 years of MDiv program, we spread it out into 8 to 10 courses. Every course you have to have a mentor to guide you. And actually, Bethel required 2 mentors. Okay, so and that's one of the things that I will have to do when I graduate is to give a very short speech to thank my mentor, and I have a lot of things to thank them. I don't know how I could squeeze that into 30 seconds. That's all they will allow you. But really, mentors is very important because he's not only the one who set you a goal at the end, he lead you all along the way. So you know how to follow him, and you know how to keep your pace, and you receive encouragement along the way. There you go. There you go. The next thing we have to look at in our race, and as well as in my in my a trail to climb the Great Wall of China, is to stay on course. Now, actually, in a marathon race, in this my example, climbing the Great Wall, you don't have problem staying on course because there's only a very clear path that you could walk, right? And if you're not sure, you follow the crowd, okay? You're hoping that most of them know your way. Well, it's not quite that simple in Christian life because we don't have a very clear path, right? And it's not very clear that everybody is really, going toward the same goal or going by the same means. So you have to stay on course. Well, some of the things that I have to worry about on climbing this wall of China, actually climbing is not a good term, but it's a term that we've been using all along, is that there are other things that will cause you to stay behind, cause you to get off the track, okay? One of the things is distraction, okay? This trail that I chose is one of the two most, there are really only two publicly accessible trail in Beijing for the Great Wall of China. This is the second one because this is actually tougher, okay? The other one is more level. This one is more steeper, okay? But because it's steeper, you have better scenery, okay? So I figured that, well, I'm still young, that's fine. At least I thought I was still young until I came back down, okay. So I said that, well, I could afford to take the less level one. I could take the steeper one because I want to see the scenery. So I bring my camera. I want to stop and watch that. Now, you will stop and you will watch your scenery. And in our Christian life, there are the scenery that will that we have, that we should have, because we don't live our own personal life alone. We live with our family and so on. So there are times where we have to do and so on, okay? But don't let this scenery, don't let those become your distractions. So as it turned out, by the time I get up there and came back down, I really didn't see too much of anything, okay? And my final assessment is that really it doesn't matter because you want to finish the race. That's the most important thing. There are many sceneries that you might want to stop. There's scenic overlook, there's a sightseeing spot that you want to stop, but don't let that be your first priority. I think this is great that in our sentence sermon, the Christian life is a pilgrim journey. It's not a sightseeing tour, okay? I went to this spot by taking a sightseeing tour bus, okay? So, and later on, I'll tell you, I realized that most of them are just sightseers. They are not there to just to climb the wall. They get up to a certain level and then they stop. Okay? So you want to avoid the distraction. You want those are great sceneries. You want to make a stop, but don't stay there. Don't stay there for long. Yeah. Keep going. Okay. The next thing is to get rid of the weighty things. There are things that keep you from get you slowing down. Okay? We look at verse 1 here. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sins that are easily tangled. So there are two different type of things that will keep you back. One is the things that will hinder, the things that are weighty. Okay, I went up there. I knew that I probably cannot carry much of anything, so I didn't even have a backpack. Okay, all I have is a digital camera and two water bottles. Okay, and before I even get the more than halfway up, I finish up all my water. Okay. Now it's not because I'm that thirsty. It's not because I'm thirsty. Why? It's because this thing is weighty. Okay. So I just want to finish it up and throw that bottles away because it weighed me down. And by the time I came, on my way down, I want to throw away my digital camera. I know I can't do that. I did not. No. If I did, then you won't see these pictures. This is Christian life in its reality. There are a lot of things that are good, that are nourishing to you, but you want to, even those, you want to put them away. You want to receive your nourishment along the way. And this is why when God led the Israelites out of Egypt, they didn't bring them a whole pack of all the cattle and all the food stuff and all that. No, they gave them manna on a day-to-day basis, okay? Because they don't want these stuff, or the necessity. Even your life necessity could be your weighty thing. You want to trust the Lord, so you receive your daily nourishment on a daily basis on manna, with the manna. The other thing is that weight you down is the sins. There are two aspects of the sins. One is your personal sins. The others are those who are the sinful people. They too, hold you back. Okay, there's a huge crowd up here. Well, on this picture you can't see that, but there's a lot of people there. Okay, and they're not all there to get to the top. Okay? They weigh you down. They became your hindrance. Okay? And you'll find out that as you get closer to the top, as you get closer to the finish line on a 26-mile marathon race, the path open up because most of them who pretend do not get there. So keep up the pace, and eventually things will open up. And you have to examine yourself or your personal sins too, not just the sinful men who hold you back, your personal sins. There are many things in the Bible that would not be characterized as your sins, but they hold you back too. Okay? I think there are two main categories that we could find in the Bible. One is in Ephesians chapter 5. It talks about we are the son of light. Okay, so walk in the light. So stay away from all the dark things. Stay away from all the things that you cannot share with your fellow Christian brothers and sisters. Things that, be a transparent man. If there's something that in your daily life that you cannot share with others, they might not be categorized as sins, but they will hold you back. The second thing is in 2 Timothy chapter 3. It talks about that we are a noble, we are a valuable vessel for the Lord. So stay away from the lowly things. There are some base things. There are some lowly things. Things that, I remember one big, very interesting. I almost never go to a video or store to borrow a VHS or a DVD. But then there was one time I did that. It's for holiday. So I went there, and then I noticed a couple of young people. Right? They went to the supermarket next door, and they bought pizza and so on. And then they went to the video store and check out like 5 or 6 DVD and say, and that was the weekend. I say, oh, that's how they're gonna spend their weekend. Is there anything wrong watching video, watching TV, watching these things? That's nothing wrong. But they are not. They are the lowly thing. They weigh you down. We are honorable. We are a precious vessel for the Lord. So stay away from the lowly things. Stay away from the dark things. These are not sins per se, but they will keep you down. They will weigh you down. They will hinder you. And if you realize that as you run on the marathon race, or as you run or walk, as you climb on this wall, the further you go, the lonelier you will be. Because people are dropping behind, and some of them never had the intention of really going all the way up to the top anyway. So that makes it even more important for you to follow Jesus Christ on a daily basis. And also, you need to have some mentor to go along your way, to walk with you, because you need encouragement. It's very difficult to run a long distance race when you're the only when you're the only person running there. Those people who finish because they have a lot of discipline. Okay, in our Christian life, we need discipline too, and I will talk about that on the next unit. But we need encouragement. So don't just try to run this road by yourself. Find a mentor. Find a spiritual partner to walk with you, to encourage you. And when he is or she is weak, you encourage him or her. And another thing is watch your steps. Okay. These are built 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Okay. Some of them are steps. Some of them are really like they're just rock paths. Okay. And the steps are not even, not very even steps. Okay. I think I've seen the smallest steps is like about 6 inch. Okay. And the tallest one is more than 18 inches. That's a big step there. Okay. So watch your steps. They're not nicely even, nicely paved. Okay. And our Christian life is like that too. Okay. There's sometimes you walk in the sunshine, sometimes you walk in the darkness, sometimes you walk in a nicely paved path, sometimes you're on cobblestone, sometimes you're on the trail. You need to get rid of the rocks or the bushes or the twigs along the way too. So watch your steps. Well, I got to a certain point where I finally need to stop and take a break. So I got somebody to take a picture for me. Okay. This is one of the faults. So so I'm really there. Okay. I should take a picture. Well, I will take a picture where I actually did finish. Okay. To finish the race, you have to get to various points, various stops. Okay. The milestones, the summits, are not your ultimate goal. Okay. So when you get to a little fort like this, you take a break, take a rest, but don't just stay there. Don't stay there too long. You have to finish the race. I like this metaphor of climbing the Great Wall better than running a marathon, because you go all the way up to the top and you thought that was the goal. That was not your goal. Your goal is to come all the way back down and get back to the bottom. And I think in our Christian life it's like that too. We also have certain milestones, certain summits, and certain climax in our life. Don't let that fool you and deceive you and think that that is your ultimate goal. That's not it. You still have to come back down. You still have to finish the race. It's just like Jesus took 3 disciples up to the Mount of Transfigurations. And Peter was overjoyed when he was up there, but then they still have to come back down. And then after that, they still have to serve, they still have to follow Christ. And they realized that, hey, that all this glory that they received while they were up there, they couldn't even cast out a demon afterward, right after that. Okay. So we still have a long way to go. So don't stop at don't just spend too much time at each stop. When I went up there, I know how much time I have to get up there and back, because the sightseeing bus will leave in exactly 1 hour. Okay, but I know. Okay, I thought I know that if I have 1 hour, I will spend like 40 minutes going up there and 20 minutes down. Right? I figured that going down is always easier. Well, going down is not easier. Okay, not when your legs are totally sore. Okay, and not when the steps are some 16 steps, some are 18-inch steps. Going down is not always easier. Finishing the race is not always easier either. I had a college schoolmate who ran the Chicago Marathon once, and he was really excited, so he called me afterward and told me about that. He said, wow, I ran the first 20 miles of a 26-mile marathon. I ran the first 20 miles in 2 hours. And that was slightly more than 5.5 minutes per mile. So I figured that, well, I have no problem finishing up in 3 hours. Well, that would be great. Well, he finished up in 4.5 hours. Okay, he ran the last 6 miles in 2.5 hours. Ran the first 6 miles in 20 hours. This is how our Christian life is also. We think that we could get to a certain point and we could finish up very, very easily. That's not true, because we lost all our motivation. We are also very tired. Okay? So there are a lot of things that we need to build up a lot of momentum at the beginning, but then at the end we need to have the discipline to finish the race. The second half of this climb, the second half of your Christian life, is not necessarily easier. Okay, I won't say that it's always more difficult, but it's not necessarily easier. Climbing up is difficult. Climbing down is not. Walking down is not a piece of cake either. At the end, I ran out of gas. Okay. I thought I was pretty good shape, and so I allowed myself only 20 minutes to get down there. And then when I start going down, I realized how difficult it is. I realized that I'm pressing in time. Then I really, try to walk down real quickly. Okay, and as I mentioned, when you get up there, it's clear up and there's less people, so it's easier. So when coming down, it's also less people and it's clear up. But then when you get to the last quarter, last 1/3 of it, the crowd is there. So again, all this distraction, all this thing that hinder you, they are all there too, and they are always there toward the end. So one of our mentorship project is to write a guided learning experience on finishing well. Finishing well is the important thing. At the end, people only remember what you did last. As Tyrone, we thank Tyrone for his very encouraging introduction. Yeah. I actually started seminary for almost 10 years. About 10 years, and half of it is at another seminary, and the other half at Bethel. Okay. Nobody remember what I did at Biblical in my first 5 years. Okay. People don't even remember what I did in the first few years of Biblical of Bethel. It's only this year that they remember. So I thank the Lord. The Lord have provided me this contact, provide me a supporting wife. So I really finished well at the end, and that's the only thing. That's the only important thing. How many of you are Phillies fans here? Okay. Wow. Okay. No, you don't have to put don't have to put. No, okay. Mets fan. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, Mets too. Okay. See, Phillies fans. When's the last time Philly went to a World Series? Last year. When's the time before that?
Year before.
When's the time before that?
1960.
1960. Well, that's because you remember the statistics, but you don't really literally remember that, especially you're a Mets fan. People don't remember when the Phillies last went to the World Series. They only remember what they did last year and the year before that. It's how you finish that count. It's not, all the glorious things that you have done before. But to finish, you'll run out of gas. You will suffer. You have to be disciplined. I felt that I was disciplined to do this climb, and at the end, I realized that I am not. Okay? So if you look at the passage that we read today, we read verse 1, 2, and 3, and then I skipped to 12 and 13. Why do I do that? Because 12 and 13 talk about lifting up your weakened knee and your feeble arms and weak knees. So that's still part of the race. But what's in between in verse 4 to verse 11? What does it talk about? It talks about discipline. It talks about discipline. To run a race, you need discipline. A physical race, you need physical discipline. A spiritual race, you need spiritual discipline. And this whole this whole half a year or this whole year's teaching is talking about strengthening yourself. And this is strengthening all the different part of your spiritual discipline. I won't have the time or the intent to talk about the middle part. Okay, but there are a lot of spiritual disciplines that you have already covered in the various part of your course. Otherwise, you get to a point where you are left with feeble arms and weak knees. And this is why I have my title today as Strengthening Your Legs for the Race. Okay? It's totally fortuitous because I plan to preach this sermon, but from the beginning, but I never really knew until last week that you are talking about the strengthening the spiritual characters of Christians. So, but it works out the same. You want to finish the race, you have to be disciplined. There are many spiritual disciplines that we need. Okay? Now, we mentioned at the beginning that Christian life is not a short-term sprint. Christian life is a long-term marathon, a long-distance marathon, and the most important goal is to finish the race. But does that mean that time is not of the essence? Time is still important because my spiritual Christian life is from whenever I finish my physical life today. And by that day, whenever it comes, whether it's next week, whether it's the end of this year, or maybe another 10, 20 years from now, there's still an ending time. You have to finish because the sightseeing bus would not wait for you. Okay. So I went down there. I finished the race, went back. This is where the parking is. It's all empty. It is all empty. When I get back down there, I am 5 minutes late. Okay, so I figured that nobody really watched time, and also I figured that if I'm relatively fit, and I went all the way up there and went all the way back down, and I'm only 5 minutes late, I could not imagine all the other people could possibly be ahead of me. So when I get down here and I saw that the sightseeing bus is gone, I was shocked. But fortunately, it's only 5 minutes, so I ran around to the other way and ran to the front of this trail stop, and I went to the gate, and just as my bus came back there, so wave my hand, stop that bus, and get back on, okay? Why did the bus did not wait for me? Because this is like our physical life. Our physical life do not just go and wait until we finish our spiritual journey. Our spiritual journey will have to coincide with the ending of our physical life. So you have to be prepared, okay? Because that bus not going to wait for me. Okay? And the other reason is when I got onto the bus, this bus is totally packed. It has capacity for 52 people, and it's totally packed. There are 52 people. So we had to the next stop is another hour. So I asked around. Nobody went to the top. Nobody went to the top. Okay. There are only 2 guys who went to the 3rd level. Okay, I'm one of the 2 who went to the 3rd level. Nobody went to the top. In today's life, you will realize that too. Even in the church, even in the Christian setting, a lot of them do not finish their Christian journey. Okay, that brings us back to somewhat controversial theological issues here. When we talk about when I feel that when we talk about a Christian life here, as described in Hebrews 12, are we talking about receiving our salvation, or are we talking about walking our Christian life after we are already saved? What do you think? It's Christian life after we're saved, okay? So if I drop off, if I did not finish my Christian life, what happened? Will I go to hell? No, I won't go to hell. I won't go to hell. Because it's like if you sign up in a marathon, okay, and then you have to, some of the more prestigious marathon, like the Boston Marathon, New York Marathon, you have to go through a lot of qualification in order to finish that. Okay. But once you're qualified, you are in there. You are you are a New York Marathon runner. Okay. Christian life is like that too. At least I believe it that way. That once you became a born-again Christian, you will not lose your salvation. So what is the purpose of this Christian race, this Christian journey? Is to receive the reward when you finish the race. And ideally, you finish your spiritual race successfully as you finish your physical race at the end of your life too. So it's not a short distance sprint, but time is still important. You have to pace yourself. You have to make sure that you are on the course, make sure that you have a follower, Jesus, as well as a personal or spiritual partner to go with you along the way. Many years ago, there's close this in a little story. Many years ago, there's a young woman who won the New York Marathon. Okay, and the next day after she won, they realized that she did not really finish her race. Okay. Well, what happened is that she became a totally upset winner because nobody ever heard of her. So they start studying her track record, and she never finished any marathon in her life. Okay, so they cannot possibly believe that she finished her marathon. And in fact, what happened is that only 1/3 of the way she quit, and then. But she wanted to see the finish, so she took a subway in New York City. She took a subway and went to the end. Okay, well, of course, by that time, most of the runners are still not even there. Okay, so she noticed that she conveniently sneaked herself back into the trail and then finished up the race. Okay, in our Christian life, we don't have a subway. You have to stay on course. You have to pace yourself. In order for you to finish, you have to have discipline. Okay? There's no subway. Okay? Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you because you have saved us. You have already given us this guarantee that someday we will receive the salvation, and salvation will realize in that we will enter into the kingdom of heaven in you. But Lord, we thank you because you also give us this opportunity to finish our Christian journey, whether it's a long distance race, or whether it's climbing of the Great Wall of China. We have to finish this race. And the last part, the second part, is not necessarily easier than the first part. Give us a proper focus so that we know that you are the goal. You are the Lord Jesus, you are the starter and the finisher. And that you are also running this race with us so that we will be a follower with you all the time. And help us to stay in course. Rid of all the weighty things, all the personal sins, all the missteps that might cause us to stumble and cause us to be distracted. Also help us to be properly disciplined. We thank you. Lord, we thank you for the Westside Church. We thank you for Pastor Tyrone for helping brother and sister here to finish their Christian race in you. Help us, especially for this year, to strengthen all our Christian discipline in you so that we could finish the race and that we will receive the reward that you have placed before us. And pray in Jesus' name.
Amen.